Dude, what a time to be alive. Things are crazy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a few weeks as we've navigated quarantine, social distance time at the office, and we were like, all right, well, let's just not do the podcast for a couple weeks. Let's keep our distance and not get too overly involved and just kind of let this play out. But then it's week after week after week, and it just continues, and it only seems to be getting worse in places with stay-at-home orders and all that kind of stuff. So we've moved a few things around here in the podcast room. Alex and I have a little extra distance from it. We've got our 6 feet here. So we figured we'll have to figure it out in order to keep the podcast rolling and keep you guys up to date with what's happening in our worlds and things of that nature. So here we are, a little bit different setup, but still the same podcast. How you been struggling through this, Alejandro?
I was just telling you beforehand. I was like, I think anyone out there with seasonal allergies can relate to the fact that
yeah,
all of the symptoms of COVID. I say all the symptoms. I use that somewhat loosely, but there's a lot of symptoms of the COVID that mirror seasonal allergies. And this year, for me, it's been probably the worst year I've ever had seasonal allergies. I'm like, ooh, that's a sore throat. Ooh, that's a dry cough. Ooh, that's a headache. Ooh, that's a... But
everything but a fever.
Take your temperature, no fever. It's been the same symptoms now for 2 months, so I'm thinking it comes in the waves as, one tree starts and another tree, shrubs end. But it's like, oh shoot,
it's crazy.
What do I got going on? My face is swelling up, my eyeballs, but you can't touch you don't want to touch your face and wash your hands constantly, and so that's made it a little interesting. But overall, trying to make the most lemonade out of all the lemons here.
It's there's so much to talk about. We haven't done the podcast in weeks, so there's normal stuff to catch up on, but then there's things around the coronavirus that I want to talk about. We've got questions from the community, so let's do some quick catch up. Let's do a quick little catch up. How's Emily feeling?
Tired. She's doing June. So
what's the? I'm gonna have a June birthday friend now.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as challenging if it weren't for now obviously having 3 kids at home. 3 kids under the age of 4. So, being almost 30 weeks pregnant, constant kids at home running around, no break. So 'cause obviously daycare is closed and everything else. That's been I know a big challenge for her physically. Just you just get tired faster because there are no breaks. So the whole stay at home, can't trying to entertain the kids. You can't take them anywhere really. We were taking them to the beach and those sorts of things because we have that ability around here. But the beaches are closed. It's just wearing her out. So that's obviously affected. Our work schedule's kind of messed up regardless. But obviously I've been trying to leave to go home and take care of the kids a little bit more, so to allow her a mild break, at least another set of hands. But I mean, overall, as healthy as you can be, given the circumstances. But last doctor visit was good. They usually start to do it every 2 weeks as you get past. Because she's been so healthy, the baby's been so healthy, they're actually going to do teleconferences for those, basically cut it down every 4 weeks, barring nothing's changed drastically.
With a video call in between.
With a video call, just to have one less person in the office. So, there's nothing that's been normal about this pregnancy. So
nothing about it's normal.
Why buck the trend now as we get closer?
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's such a new normal for everybody right now that we don't know when it's going to end. I don't even know where to start. There's so much, you know what I mean? It's so overwhelming where you're just man, how long is this going to stay?
Well, how long is it? Not that it's probably ever going to go away, just like the regular, I call the regular flu. It's probably going to be now. It's this type, type A, type B, and COVID,
whatever this COVID thing is.
So, so I don't think it's ever really going to go away. It's just more of when does it turn into being
Well,
safe enough
they'll have
for
vaccines and they'll
most of their
understand it
population
more.
to where
Yeah.
uh, the normal day-to-day lives, that we've kind of all been accustomed to, when can that start
Get back
again?
to some sort of new
Yeah.
normal. And unfortunately, I mean, I so sorry, I'm struggling with where like I don't want to bounce all over the place. So I want to keep things sort of straight for everybody. So I'm not just jumping all over the place. When this all started, I put out a video because it was like, all right, schools are going to be canceled for the next 2 weeks. Like, and that kind of hit the country kind of around the same time. There was some areas of the country like Washington State that kind of hit first. They were like kind of the first big hot zone area for this, and they started shutting things down a little sooner. And then it started sweeping across the country. And New York got hit really hard, and they started shutting things down. And then like all around within the same week, I feel like the rest of the country was like, all right,
Like we're
schools are
supposed, yeah.
closed. We're doing this self quarantine thing, stay at home, and then they started shutting down the non-essentials and all that kind of stuff. But like the staying at home with your kids thing, like suddenly now everyone's a homeschool like teacher, and you're like, how do I deal with this? And
Well, if you're
well, and not only
fortunate
that,
enough to be in that position,
well,
because I mean,
yeah,
how many people are
well,
you still having to go to work? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, that's where it's so hard, and that's where I don't want to bounce around too much. But it's like, first it was like schools are canceled for the next 2 weeks, and you're like, all right, well, I guess the kids are just early spring break, right? And you're
yeah,
like, okay. But then it was like, no, we're actually going to do it longer than that, and we're gonna like our schools, like we're gonna send packets home. We're gonna have you doing your schoolwork still. We're like, oh snap, okay, now we're doing homeschool. But then it was actually kind of interesting because as soon as we introduced that to the kids, is like, hey, schools are closed, but we're going to be doing homeschool. They were kind of excited about it, like, oh, homeschool, this is new and exciting and like fun. And then Brandy had to learn how to like be a teacher. She's like, I don't want to be a teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher. I'm not good at teaching. Like, this is not what I want to do.
yeah,
And so it was a mind shift change for her, for the kids. And then it was like really putting a schedule and a structure in place that would like mimic the school schedule so that there was some sort of sense of normality for them throughout the day. It wasn't just a free for all summer break, like, let's just play on the playground out back and then do whatever we want and hang out and jump on the couch. And it was like, no, there's going to be like,
yeah,
you're going to eat breakfast and then class is going to start at this time. And then you're going to have a 15-minute break. And then there's going to be a recess where like, I'm going to make you go outside and get out of the house for a little bit and get some energy out. And then you're going to come back. We're going to do lunch and then we're going to get back to schoolwork. And then we're going to end school stuff at 2, 3 o'clock. Let's see how, because there's like a learning curve for all of us. So we don't know
yeah,
what that's going to look
yeah,
like. And
yeah,
then there's another break. And then it's like, you're going to clean your room because during one of your breaks, you got toys all over the place. So now you're going to clean your room. And then you can kind of play outside, do whatever you want for an hour. And then we're going to start getting ready for dinner. And it was like, we tried to keep a very structured routine like that. It was kind of new for us because our life was so different before that with school and that was all, and then gymnastics
yeah,
and all this other stuff that like suddenly wasn't happening. So we were like, oh my God, how do we navigate this? But that's why I made the video I made then. It was like, hey, homeschool, here's a schedule for you guys to follow if you don't have anything to go by. Like this will get you guys started to like keeping some sort of level of sanity, I hope. And then there was something else I put out. There's 2 documents I put out around that. And I'm trying to remember what they were now. The homeschool schedule and something else, but downloadable stuff. And this video I put out at the very beginning of all this stuff. But then I started like really open my eyes to a lot of it. And it's so unfortunate how many people are out of work. And then the kids were like started to get really bored with all this stuff. And I had to really put it in perspective for them. And then my kids are old enough to understand it
yeah,
when you phrase it this way. It was like, girls, listen, like, because they were starting to get bored with homeschool and they were giving Brandy a hard time and she's losing her mind. She's calling me upset. I'm like, oh man, I gotta like really straighten this out. So I was like, girls, listen, like you guys learn about history in school. You learn about slaves and you learn about presidents and you learn about all these things in history classes. Like what's happening right now with the virus and the way the entire world is being shut down and affected by this and businesses are closing. Like this is something that your kids will learn about in history class and your grandkids and my grandkids and great grandkids. Like they're going to learn about this in history of the epidemic of 2020, COVID, coronavirus, whatever they're going to call it. But like this is something that's going to be in history, and you need to understand like this is a worldwide problem that is not normal, and all these things are happening, and this is and it so like that kind of clicked for them that like, whoa, this is big deal. I'm like, we really need your help.
Yeah.
Like we can't like don't work against us. Like we're all trying to figure this out. Like school, this is how school is going to be for right now. So don't put up a fight about it. Yada yada yada. And that like just having that little sit down talk of like this is like history in the making.
Yeah.
This will be in the history books. That was a mind shift change for them that made them understand the severity of what's happening. And then it wasn't just like we're locking you in the house and we're not going anywhere because you're being punished. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is what we have to do right now. Like
Yeah.
it sucks.
I
And then
think
Kendall yesterday wasted a whole roll of toilet paper because there was like some art project from the school that they had the kids doing, painting toilet paper, the tube from the inside. And she wanted to paint another one. So she took a roll of toilet paper, unrolled the whole thing into the trash can, and took the tube and painted it. And I was on the phone with Brandy yesterday afternoon. And she's like, why is there toilet? Who? Oh, hell no. You know, she was pissed. And then I was like, oh, man. I'm like, so then it was like that talk last night. Like, all right, girls, toilet paper is like gold.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell?
No, do not waste the TP.
Oh my goodness. It's just like so crazy. And I don't want this whole episode to be about the coronavirus, but there's like, because there's,
then
not a lot
like
else
from
to
my
talk
side,
about.
like I can't explain anything. Like my kids don't grasp too much.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I mean?
mean, it's
Like
cabin
they
fever.
they know it. It's like, well, it's weird. Daddy's home. Hey, they're at the age where it's like, well, I want to go back to school. Like they kind of get it, but they don't. Yeah, there's a pandemic. They've mentioned things they've just from overhearing us, like, well, we wash our hands so we don't get the virus, and it's like
Mhm.
you can repeat it because you're a parent, but you don't
Completely
fully grasp what
understand.
that actually means. So then it's like, okay, like, yep, just another day of Legos and can't really go anywhere. And oh, by the way, we're just gonna do some drive-through grocery pickup. And
Yeah, it's very, it's just so,
it's hard to, again, like, just because the cabin fever and everything else, and their attention spans at that age are, they're limited.
Mhm.
It's been a challenge just try to navigate that and then not take out the frustrations on the kid, especially like like I said, I've been leaving work early, as you obviously know, but I go home and like it's their nap time, but the twins some days they'll nap and 90% of the time they won't. So I'm at, I get home early enough where they're laying quiet in their room, so I start to, let me get some work done, and then doors open, everyone's screaming, hollering. You go upstairs, you're like, no, let's calm down. And like happens 10 more times, and all of a sudden now it's like, get in your room, be quiet. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I shouldn't have come home and tried to work because like that was just a dumb idea. Like it's just,
But it's tough. Like
it's like
here, like we're super fortunate, like unbelievably fortunate to still be able to operate our business.
yes,
And people here are, some of us are working from home, and we're kind of mixing and matching schedules, and like we're very fortunate that everyone here has like their own office space, and everyone kind of stay to themselves, work from home if they need to for the most part, and we're very fortunate in that regard. So like we can't just shut down. Like some of us, like there's things that I'm doing right now with the launch of all these new products that I've been talking about. Like I've got to be here, I've got to be doing things that kind of have to be done here.
yeah.
But then there's other people that are just like can't work or out of work. This is changing the course of people's lives. With businesses are going out of business, people aren't work, they're losing income. Like on the other side of that, like people are like that. I put out a video about this on like Instagram stories or something. It's like desperate times call for desperate measures. Like you're starting to really see now people doing dumb shit because they're running out of money. I've seen people around here locally talking about their golf cart got stolen, their dirt bike got stolen, their truck got stolen, a trailer got stolen. People are stealing stuff and selling it off, trying to get cash to buy food and all. Like, I mean, it's crazy, and it sucks. And like, that's why I put that story out, because I was like, just be aware of your surroundings. You know what I mean? Like, be vigilant, stay on top of it, stay alert, because people are just getting desperate. You know what I mean? They're running out of, like, most people don't have a large amount of money saved up. I mean, it's tough times, you know what I mean? And so it's like, there's a lot of people trying to help and do the right thing and donate this and do that, and which is awesome. I love to see when communities come together in that regard. But then there's just the other side of it where people just.
Well, that's it. I mean, in some places, like if you're running out of money, and then let's say you get some, And then to get to the grocery store, it's not like you can just waltz in and grab it. It's like 5 people at a time in the store because it's one person per 1,000 square feet or whatever that new rule
Yeah.
is. So it's like even if you have some savings or money, then you go and you can't buy. There's maybe one
Can't buy
random.
toilet
Yeah,
paper.
you can't buy toilet paper. There's one random loaf of bread, and depending on the area, you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. And some are way worse than others. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have a stay at home order. He's like, our governor's like bouncing around that whole terminology. It seems like it's like, if you're not going to work, stay at home, but you can go outside and do all this other stuff too, but keep your distance. And I got pissed at one point because like our one like outlet out of the house was the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you can go on the water and stay away from everybody. This is great.
Yeah.
So we go out on the
my
water.
core is not changed. It's my
It's
my
my
family
same. It's
and the
me and my
same
wife
people,
and the two kids. But like, we're gonna go on the boat and enjoy the boat because we're able to do that, and that's awesome. And we went out the first weekend, like right when all this started, and we were like, yeah, let's get on the boat. It was like the first nice weekend. It was like first weekend of spring or something.
80 degrees.
It was so nice. I was, hell yeah, I'm taking the boat out. And then the next weekend, I was like, I got a bunch of housework to do, and like I'm just tired. I need to recharge my batteries, and just like I'm gonna get a few things done around the house and just kind of chill this weekend. We'll take the boat out next weekend. And then like that Thursday or something, the governor had shut down all public access to waterways and no boat ramps and no this. And because when I was out there was people just like hanging out on these sandbars partying like it was 4th of July and Memorial Day weekend. And I'm like, well, that's not social distancing,
Yeah.
like. And there was a bunch of like kids. It was like teenagers.
What I was gonna say is, was it you who told me it's like when recess gets ruined for the entire class because you got one asshole. It's like, come on, like
Yeah, it's like the two kids in class that are being bad that ruin it for everybody, and it's like it's so frustrating because what people don't realize, and this will go back to like the washing hands and things like that, and the things that I've witnessed, and I've told you, and I've told some other people that like tattoo artists are like laughing at all of us because they get it, like the regulations that are in place for tattoo shops. And I'm sure there's other people laughing at a lot of people too, but like you've witnessed it and I've witnessed it of people that like are wearing gloves, for example, and they think that they're doing the world a favor by putting on gloves, except for they're still touching everything with the gloves on. So it's like you're not preventing any, like it's just not on your skin.
Yeah, it's like you went into Walmart or Target, you
Grabbed
touched all the
everything,
stuff, and then
pushed
you
your cart outside.
pushed your cart outside, and then you got into your car with the gloves on and your mask on, and you're touching
Grabbing
your
the
steering wheel. So when you get home, you're gonna take off the gloves, probably touch the steering wheel or the mask again, and then
It
all the
just
germs that are on there, they're already on.
I've seen it all over the place. You know what I mean? And like, so a tattoo shop's like, you've got a clean hand, a dirty hand. Like you only touch certain things with this hand. And if you're going to like answer the phone or do something else, like they usually take a glove off, do what they got to do, put the glove back on, keep tattooing.
Yeah.
Like they're switching gloves like every freaking minute, it seems like. You know what I mean? And and there's a funny meme. And if anybody like works on cars or does any mechanical stuff, there's a thing called anti-seize. I saw a meme about that, and it's like only mechanics will understand. It's like this stuff just gets everywhere. It's like a silver or gold sometimes, like paste that you put on nuts and bolts so they don't like rust and seize up. But think about it like dye. If you had dye on your hand and you grabbed a door, that door now has dye on it, right? And then just because you're wearing a glove doesn't mean you're protected from it. Maybe you wipe your nose. Well, now it's on your face. And then it's on your doorknob at home. And then it's just all over the place. And then you wash your hands, maybe you get some of that off, but then it's still on you. It's still on that door. You touch the door again.
Well, that was some of the, obviously the CDC just recommended, everyone wearing masks. And while, I've seen people say, well, it's not going to protect you from, if it's not a, N95 mask, it's not going to protect you and everything else. But the idea is if you wear it and I wear it and we're in the same place, it's kind of staying in each other's space. It's not just spreading out into the world.
It's way better than nothing at all.
Yeah, exactly. But it only works if both sides are wearing it. But people that aren't, most of us aren't used to wearing masks, so you're constantly fidgeting, messing with it. So like if you keep touching it and you touch your face, you're doing yourself a disservice in that regards as well. So I think a lot right now has just been such so much misinformation or information that spreads quickly because people want to get information out, which is a good thing, but they maybe are spreading it as it's like a half truth. You know what I mean? It's like it's not necessarily wrong. It's just there's more to be said about that, and
Mm-hmm.
you pushed along a
A
headline.
headline, yeah.
Like using examples like ibuprofen. Like I've heard, don't take it because if you have it, it'll pretty much kill you if you've got
Right.
the coronavirus. And then there's other stuff that's like, well, it's all anecdotal. Some people are just allergic to ibuprofen, so if they had an issue with it and then they have the virus, they're more at risk. So it's like, well, what is it? And all of a sudden, it's just like only use Tylenol, which that might actually be the case, but you can see how quickly something will spread. Next thing you know, I've got 9 emails, 14 text messages, and headlines is ibuprofen safe, and it's like, well, there's not enough evidence, but it just gets pushed out there.
Right.
But I mean, granted, that's with most things nowadays. It's
Right.
like you could quickly say something and it's believed to be truth when
It's on the
when there's
internet. It's got to be true.
when there's no evidence to back it up or not. So it's been challenging to see how that's been playing out too, because I think I think Americans in general tend to be skeptical, especially of the government for most
yeah.
of us.
I mean,
And so you
the
start to go,
conspiracies are
like,
crazy.
you start to go into a little bit of I don't care what channel it's on, just news in general. Are they speaking truth? Are they, what's the word I'm looking for? Dramatic.
Dramatized, clickbait.
Yeah, no, embellish,
Sensationalized.
sensationalized. Thank you. Like someone who might have it, they want to prove a point, so they sell it a little too hard. Where it's like, yes, they were in like, as the wife said of one person who had it, for better or worse, she was like, "Have any of y'all like all these men who are getting it complaining like, oh, I was stuck in bed?" Like we're talking about like some 35-year-old who's got it, and again, hopefully they're safe. But it's like, oh God, I couldn't even get out of bed to go take to get the water from the sink. And it's like, have you ever been pregnant with the flu? Like, quit your bitching. Like,
Yeah.
like man up and just like it sucks. Just deal with it. It's like, for all the women out there who are pregnant who like, have something like, I can't just take medicine. Like, you just got to tough it up. Not saying that is, but it's again, are you sensationalizing it because you're trying to make a point that people really need to social distance? So you're trying to kind of use I don't want to say a white lie, but try to use that to try to prove a point to help. Or are you trying to just get people to listen to you because you're enjoying the spotlight? It's what, again, being skeptical. You're like, well, what is it? And then in turn, that might keep people from not social distancing because they're all just full of BS. Well, no, we actually should have been listening, or vice versa. It's so hard to cut through the back and forth on that to try to be making, like I'm just trying to make an informed decision for my family. But one ER doctor says like, wash your hands, be safe. Unless you got underlying conditions, you're going to be fine. And then another ER doctor or some infectious specialist from some place or other is like, now, if you go outside and breathe the air, you're gonna die. You're like, well, which one is it?
That was the same stuff that was going on around masks. It was like, don't wear a cloth mask. It doesn't do anything. It's going to give people false sense of being safe, and they're just going to spread it even faster because they think because they have a mask on, it's not going to da-da-da-da. And then other people are like, no, you need to wear a mask because it'll really help. And it was like, cotton masks suck. Cotton masks are the best thing you can do. Don't do this, do that. And it's like, oh, what do I do? You know what I mean? And anyhow, there was something else you said that was like, that really triggered something for me. I got triggered. No, but the other thing, sorry, I have very strong feelings about a few things around all of this, and this is one of them. There's a lot of parents out there, and there's pressures coming at you from other places of like, everyone's kids are bored. Hey, let's get the kids together. Let's let them play. They're bored. Let's get them out of the house. But kids are the worst ones to spread anything because they don't understand. One, they don't like social distancing doesn't exist. Like they're going to hug on you and they're going to grab you and they're going to touch your hands. You're going to touch their hands. They're going to put their hands in their mouths. They're spreading stuff. I'm going to
jump on your bike. You're going to,
Yeah, like they're the worst ones. So like keep the kids away from each other. They're like, if anyone's going to spread it, it's going to be them. That being said, like there's still parents out there that were like, had their kids all over playgrounds and getting kids together and all this stuff. Like you don't know where that kid's been, you don't know what's been touching, da da da. There's and this has been a problem too. So keep this in mind for the people listening. Like families that are split that have a kid that's going back and forth to different homes. That's a problem. You know what I mean? Because like, I've been like firsthand experience with this one. You know, of like family members that have split homes, where it's like the kid was with dad, but dad works in food and beverage, and then the kid is at home with mom, who does something else, and like you don't know where mom's been, you don't know where dad's been. The kid's going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, this family wants to get that person together, and the kids that I'm like, nah, ain't gonna happen, you know. And then like people get offended by that, like, what you think? I'm like, I don't know where anybody's been. Like, you got to keep your circle closed as soon as you, like you said to me, you open your circle
here
up.
we are, and obviously in the same room. But again, like I've told you who I've encountered.
Right.
I know what you're doing too. Again, we gotta limit it to the best of our ability without just having
there's no personal anything towards anybody. You just don't know, and you just like. And some people say it's overreacting or whatever, and that's fine. But like, I know how valuable I am to the business, and how many people rely on me to be well and to be healthy and not to be sick for 2 weeks. Like, do I think I would die from it? No. Is it going to put me out of commission for a few weeks? Absolutely. Because once I get it, or if I were to get it and it was confirmed, I would certainly be isolated for at least 2 weeks, which means I'm not working, which means X, Y, and Z aren't getting done. There's the things that the family requires from me that they rely on me for. The people in the office, like a lot of things get shut down if I get shut down, and that's a problem. Yeah. So I'm like, I got to protect myself first and foremost, but then I try to protect my family, and it's like there was some times where I felt like pushback, like, and it wasn't on purpose, but it was like they're frustrated. Because they want to do things, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. You know what I mean? And like, of course they are upset, and they think I'm just trying to be like, not mean, but and I'm like, I'm just trying to protect you guys. Like, and there's a lot of other people like that. And it's like, think about The Walking Dead. Like, plenty of people have watched The Walking Dead, and it's like, they've got their circle, and it's like, why did you let that guy in the gate? You don't know him. You don't trust him. Like, what if he's trying to stab you in the back and take all our food and all? It's the same thing. It's like, you don't know. Like, are they clean? Are they dirty? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's
just because they seem healthy.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
crazy.
Well, again, you wore a mask and gloves into Target, but then you touched your face when you got home with the gloves. Like,
right. Think about it like you just grabbed a big steamy pile of dog poop in the yard, and because you had a glove on, it's like you still go touch everything with poop on the glove. No, you'd like take the glove off and go wash your hands, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come on.
We've had it pretty good, pretty easy for so long that anything interrupting that norm is challenging, and it's no fault of anyone, because thankfully, especially in America,
it is the fault.
across the board
of one person who can change the world by eating an undercooked bat.
Yeah, I saw that meme too. But I was gonna say, like, as bad as most people, as bad as some people have it in the U.S., like comparatively to a lot of other places in the world, that bad circumstances is usually even better than a lot of other places. So it's no fault that a lot of people are just upset that their norms have been interrupted, because they've had it extremely easy. I think most of us can say, like, if you really stop to reflect, you had it really easy. Like, I don't worry about going to a grocery store and then all of a sudden that market being blown up. That's a reality for other people in other parts of the world. Can I drink the water out of my faucet? Is it going to kill me? Like, I don't have those worries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've gotten soft through no fault of our own. But I've been through this whole process. I've been reflecting about, like, our grandparents through World War II, right? Like,
I've seen.
Talk about a feeling of like, we don't know how far this will spread, but it's not the same like financial crisis of 2008 in the sense that when everything just fell off the cliff, it was like, well, I don't even know how to begin to start climbing back up. Here it's like we're falling off a cliff financially and everything else, but in the same token, like vaccines, other precautionary measures as the world catches up, like I feel like there's that hope and sense and light at the end of the tunnel, albeit things might have changed.
Right.
But all of a sudden, you reflect back on like 1940, or like all of a sudden, like there's the invasion. Like, when is that stuff gonna end? Like, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, people are being carted off to concentration camps, and just like when you start to try to put it in perspective, you go like, all right, I think I can deal with the hardship of staying in my
For a
home
couple weeks.
for a couple
Like
of
people,
weeks.
and so this is a thing, and I wanted to make a video about this, and I haven't gotten around to it with all this other stuff happening. It's not that difficult.
Well,
Like,
what I was gonna like,
go ahead.
let me preface
Yeah.
though is like there's clearly homes that are like so much better for kids to be in school and not in a home environment with parents at home 24/7. Like that kid's probably in more danger. Like I get that. So anyone who wants to like write the comments about, well, like this one random like I, I empathize with those situations. But I would just say like when you put it in like a huge 10,000-foot view perspective, I think we can all, to the best of our ability, try to put it in perspective to realize it could always be a lot worse, and use that as, again, some hope to realize that, like, let's just do our part and get through it, as opposed to going, well, how's this going to end? Well, we know how it ended in War II. It took a nuclear bomb and killing hundreds of thousands of people. Like,
right. I look at it as humans are generally pretty competitive. If you tell somebody you can't do that, they're going to try to do it, right? Like, hey, I bet you can't do this. You're going to try to do it. So I look at this as a challenge, like with your buddies, right? Like, hey, man, I bet you can't stay at home for 2 weeks and not leave. You're going to be like, hold my beer, watch this, right? I look at it as a challenge. If you look at it in that perspective of like, I'm going to challenge myself to do this. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to self-isolate. I'm going to social distance or whatever, and not try to go against what the government, because it's not like the government's not trying to take over you or empower. Like, I get it. And there's people that are like, yeah, the government's trying to control you and take, like, this is just the beginning of, like, no, like they're not shutting down the economy. Like, it's a worldwide problem. It's not just the United States. So anyways, there's that side of it. But the competitive nature of like the challenge, or even as a parent with stay at home schooling for your kids, if you look at that of challenging yourself of like, you know what, I'm going to be the best teacher my kids can have because I want them to be the smartest kids ever, and no one's going to be able to teach my kids better than I can, and I'm going to be awesome. And you take that approach into homeschooling, it changes everything. Instead of, I got to make sure they get this worksheet done and submit their schoolwork online and da-da-da-da. Like, if you just take it like, I'm going to be the best damn teacher I can be for my kids, it changes the whole game.
and then you're still allowed to vent at the end of the night.
Yeah.
It's still frustrating.
Yeah.
But like that, I mean, like I was having my kids power wash the driveway, you know what I mean? So they're holding the little thing and I'm holding the end to keep them safe, but it's like,
yeah,
like, let me teach them how to do some things. It's
Some
a little
other stuff.
like, I would normally have gotten like a 4-year-old out there with a
power
washer, but let's have a controlled enough environment and teach them to do something. Just
yeah.
you gotta make the best of it.
Okay, so that was the whole first part of this podcast is like kind of negative, right? Let's talk about some of the positives about a lot of this stuff, and then I also want to talk about Joe Exotic for a minute too, because
here's a positive. Thankfully, people will learn to actually wash their hands, which would actually help with the regular flu. I heard from an ER doctor locally who said that he hasn't had to treat a automobile accident person in the past 2 weeks.
I heard that like murder rates and stuff, like in Chicago in particular, were down because there's like less people out, so it's like less murders.
Just because someone's not pissing someone else
I thought
off,
it was just like a funny meme. Like memes have come from this.
Well, you got to have some. You got to laugh at.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like there's some
cry,
positivity and like funny and humor that's come from a lot of stuff. But like murder rates are down. I thought it was just like a funny meme headline type thing. And I talked to Kurt and he's like, no, that's for real. Like, who would have thought? And I was like, oh my God, it's crazy. But like some of it I've actually welcomed, you know what I mean? Like, not because of the virus, but like spending more time at home with the kids, being able to, like, having the opportunity to teach them different skills that they
Yeah.
wouldn't have learned probably currently, just because, like, well, there's extra time and, like, we're all here, like, hey, did you know this? Or hey, let me show you how to do this. I've gotten a ton of house projects done that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise because I've
Yeah.
been doing something else. Um, there's a like there's some positivity, some positive things that have come from it that I've like kind of welcomed in this unfortunate circumstance. But
Well,
um
again, if you just dwell on the negative side of it, that's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to feel. I mean, not to, again, there's the financial up, just
yeah,
disruption for a
that's
lot of people. Yeah, it would to not take that lightly, but again, if you're in a position where that hasn't just hit you drastically, and you're still just a negative
yeah, I
Nancy,
feel like it's
like
going to hit everybody. Just it's going to be a ripple effect, and it's going to hit this initial section first, and then it's going to hit more people, and then it's going to hit more people as people are out of work longer and they start running out of money, and then that's starting to affect businesses that they were spending money
well,
at, and then
like what it's been interesting, like people that you would have thought would have been very secure, like um are getting laid off. Like hospitals are cutting down on other staff and other doctors because there's no one's coming in for an elective surgery,
right,
which is also interesting, which I hadn't thought about. It's like all the premiums that everyone's paying for the insurance companies, but they're not actually having to outlay anything. So like while they might be outlaying some money for some of the coronavirus stuff, they're not outlining all this other stuff. So I'm like, are insurance companies also going to have like billions of extra dollars of profit because they're not having to pay for a knee surgery that
yeah,
you maybe like maybe you fell and you can like yours, like you needed it, but it wasn't like life threatening. So
yeah,
if you can stay out of the ER for a month and on crutches, like let's just wait and then go fix it. You know what I mean?
hmm
They're not having to outlay that, but and also the knee surgeon, he's not all of a sudden going to cross train and go be in the ER. You know what I mean?
right.
He's a medical professional, but like their offices aren't seeing people. So it's a very like I've had an
Well,
earache
yeah,
for a while, and I'm
well,
like I don't know if I really want
dentist
to go to the
offices and
doctor.
things
Yeah,
like that
it's
that
like
are all not seeing. It's I mean, it's just
but you like oh like you would have thought that was some of the most stable. Like I'm a doctor, like someone's gonna pay me something because I'm valuable. You're still valuable, just if no one comes into your office. How do you pay your staff?
yeah.
It's it's um it's brought to light a lot of interesting scenarios that I never thought would have played out.
I mean, this is like a once in a lifetime sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like we probably likely won't live through another pandemic like this. I've asked like my in-laws and my parents. I'm like, hey, like we've had these like other scares of different viruses and the H1N1 and swine and all these different crazy things over the last decade or so or 2 decades. But like, have you guys ever seen or lived through like anything like this where they just like shut down the whole world just like, and they're like, no, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it other than just like nuts. It's crazy. I keep saying that throughout this thing. There should be like a crazy counter on the podcast.
Ding
Like
ding
ding,
ding.
ding, ding.
Yeah, it's just a lot to unpack, a lot to digest. I think we're all trying to digest it to the best of our ability. But I mean, again, as frustrating as everything is, just the only thing that's keeping me sane, quite honestly, is just try to keep it in perspective.
Yeah.
That um that presently my kids are healthy. I'm spending more time with my kids. Granted, with our business, thankfully we were able to spend a lot of time with our kids, but um presently I might not have the fanciest organic free range chicken that I might have bought previously, but I've
Mhm.
got chicken. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so try to help out the friends who need the help. And just we're all in it together, and just try to keep some perspective
Yep.
is what's kept me through. And it happens to be coming into Easter, and I'm pretty faith based religious on that front too. And I think as I've applied some of that to my life, it's kept it in perspective as well.
Right.
That to me there's a much bigger light at the end of the tunnel, and that's keeps me sane.
Hmm. Well, let's answer some of these questions, and I also want to chat about the Tiger King throughout this
Which
because,
I still haven't seen because I had to
dude,
finish Jack
how,
Ryan. I had to finish Jack Ryan.
dude, the whole
Because I
the
never watch
timing,
TV. I
the
never watch
timing,
TV.
me neither. But like Brandy was like, you gotta. Well, I saw a few things online about it, and then Brandy's like, you gotta see that. We gotta watch the Tiger King. I'm like, I'm not watching that garbage, you know. And then so she's like, come on, just like watch one with me. You have to watch this. So I watched the first like episode. There's 7 episodes in this series, this documentary thing, and I'm like, watched most of the first one, and I'm like thinking to myself the whole time, I'm like, turn this garbage off. I feel dumber watching it. And the whole time I'm watching, it's like this is getting crazier and crazier, and the story just goes deeper and deeper. And then by the end of the first episode, I was like, oh, I gotta see how this plays out. You know, I'm like, holy crap, this is wild. And I don't want to give any like real spoilers because maybe some of the people that are listening, like the 2 people
Like me.
haven't actually seen it. It's unreal. Like you can't make it up. It's impressive.
So you fully endorse spending the time to watch Tiger?
Dude, that's like the best entertainment you could have right now during quarantine. And that's what I was saying too. Like the timing couldn't have been better for that to be released. Like the whole world, that's all anyone's talking about is coronavirus and Joe Exotic and Tiger King. Like that's it. It's what a time. What a time. So call sign caveman says on Instagram in the questions, how you doing in this quarantine BS? I think we've already talked about that enough, and you know, we're surviving. We're getting through there. Could be worse for sure. Mr. Build It, Alex says, do you think Carol Baskin killed Jeffrey Epstein? So Carol Baskin, by the way, is the woman in this Joe Exotic Tiger King scenario who's like trying to shut down Joe Exotic because he's like poorly treating his tigers, and she also has a bunch of tigers, but she's trying to save the tigers, and she's nuts, and everyone thinks that the entire world, I think, believes that she fed her husband to a tiger because he like went missing 20 years ago and was never found. And anyways, crazy stuff. That's crazy. When are the e-box coming back? Yeah, Alex, when are the e-box coming back?
So e-box, so the material that's in a diaper is actually what's used to make face masks. The parts of the material is used in surgical masks. So right now the global supply of material that would normally go to diapers, short of like being the Pampers and have, you know, like it's
Right,
being
because we
used.
manufacture our own diaper. If you guys didn't know, so like the diapers that are in there are like made to our spec. Like it's our diaper. It's branded TBG on the diaper. So like there's just a shortage of material, and
so
unfortunately, like we're going into production to have these to like we
they
should have had
literally
them,
they
like, right
literally
now.
took the material that was going into our diapers and started making face masks with it. So the factory that makes, obviously, because it's sterile environment and everything else. So the factories that make our diapers also make face masks, or have the ability to make them. So they literally took our material to start making face masks for the global medical shortage. And so that we're already 2 months behind on that. It'll probably be another month before we start production again on the diapers, because we're basically have to wait for material that isn't being allocated to face mask. So I'm hopeful by the summer we'll have them.
Yeah, that's been a long,
it's
frustrating road of.
But I mean,
we're working.
I'm sure everyone listening can appreciate the fact that we'd rather more face masks for the first responders and medical professionals than a diaper. Since thankfully, you know, there's still diapers on the shelf.
Yeah. That question was from Wes, the experience. Wes, thanks for the question. Another question here from Penny over at Penny Kicks, the sneaker store. Parenting, education, business owning during the pandemic. We've kind of covered a lot of that already too.
Well, any business owner that hasn't already heard, obviously the government's rolled out a huge $2 trillion package that will be interesting on how we ever pay that back. But nevertheless, the money is being allocated. There's 2 programs. One's called the Paycheck Protection Program. Basically, if you have W-2 employees or 1099 employees through your payroll costs through your business. You can apply through your local bank. Most local banks are now been authorized to do small business administration loans, and what that is uh, 2.5 times your monthly averaged
Payroll.
payroll. If you pay for health benefits and stuff through the business, that can be totaled in your calculations. But if you then use the money through the loan, if you qualify to keep people on payroll and can prove that you used it to pay obviously your health benefits for your employees, etc., it's forgivable. So that is it's slowly rolling out. So obviously, if you have to kind of stay in it to be able to do that. And then there's another emergency uh, I think it's EDIL loan, and you can apply for that as well for an SBA loan that is usually at like a very low interest rate, and you can qualify for it at $10,000 advance. That if you don't still then qualify for the loan, they're making that forgivable as well. So if you're a small business owner, I would definitely look into those programs. So talk to your accountant or your bookkeeper. They tend to be up on the news on that, or your local banker.
Yeah, thanks. Dan over at Combat Flags says, "How are you seeing COVID impact your marketing?" To be honest, things right now, like as far as like marketing goes, haven't really changed per se. We've just all right. So while on the topic of business, we know there's a lot of small business owners that listen to this, and there's a lot of other like small, companies that we collaborate with that might need some stuff. But right now, there's an incredible opportunity online if you're creating content. Right, people are sitting at home. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their time. They're watching more stuff than ever. Like engagement rates are way up and things like that. So there's just a huge opportunity for you to get out there if you have a side hustle or things like that to make the content, to start like really creating a community, do some community building, stuff like that. Like don't try to be super salesy and sell everyone whatever your little side hustle is, but like be a community leader, step up to the plate, like create your video, start a podcast from home. You can do it on your phone, that kind of stuff. Like there's huge opportunities in that. And like,
Well, now's the time to as so many people are not distracted from their normal daily commute to work and everything else for the most part, consuming so much more content. Now would be the time to really push out
well,
the
it's a good,
why. Like, as I'm concerned, like why? What do you stand for? What's your brand stand for? What are you trying to accomplish? Not necessarily, hey, buy my widget.
thing. Yeah.
But now would be the time to, because organic reach. Correct me if I'm wrong, but organic reach is actually finally come back up from where it was. It was not back to where it was, but there's more opportunity to have your stuff seen just because people are on these platforms so much longer.
Yeah, it's a supply and demand game, right? Like if there's a lot of demand right now, and if you can help supply that demand with more content and an entertaining video or educational video or some sort of brand building thing for your side hustle, or you just want to like make funny videos and entertain people, like cool, awesome, do it. So that really.
So yeah, it hasn't necessarily directly changed how we market. Just
yeah, it's just I'm taking a slightly different approach with putting out some more video content than I have been recently because people just weren't watching as much video of ours, and except for now everyone's home, so they're watching more videos. So I'm trying to supply them with video to watch, and hopefully we can get some podcasts back up and running. I feel like this episode had to be done and gotten out of the way talking about the coronavirus. Like as much as I'm so sick, and I think everyone else is probably sick of hearing about it and they just want it to go away. Like I don't think we could have a podcast without talking about it. So I feel like now that this one's been talked about, we've gotten all our coronavirus talk out of the way. Moving forward, maybe a few little updates, but I think we'll be back on track talking about our normal shenanigans moving forward and all that kind of stuff. And I want all of you to watch The Tiger King. I don't know. You got anything else? That's it for me. Kind of a different episode.
Definitely different, but I don't know. Just stay positive, everyone.
Yeah.
Try to use it as an opportunity to, if you're constantly at work and now you're at home, be frustrated with trying to work from home, but maybe that's your opportunity to be able to spend that much more time with, an infant that you just brought into this world that you might have had to rush back to work for. So try to find the positive. See, you know, it could always be worse.
For sure.
And for those who are struggling with it, or our first responders and medical professionals, obviously a big thank you from all of us at Tattoo Baby Gear. We couldn't sit here in this room if it weren't for y'all, out there doing what y'all do. So just, extremely, we've always had so much, I guess, can I say like gratefulness? Is that a,
Yeah.
it's just, towards obviously the men and women who serve, military and, otherwise, but just kind of brings to light just how much more like these people just, there's a fire and they're running into it. You know what I mean? Metaphorically or literal.
Yeah. And I've also seen some funny stuff about like, and this is true too, but like teacher salaries, like when you get all of a sudden everyone's at home
Yeah,
teaching.
I sure hope so. That's been. I could go on a rant on that. I was, I was in high school and I went and talked in front of like the school board and everything else, complaining about how like, you want to give me a good education, but you're going to pay your teachers jack. Like, how like, you know, like just bring the economics into the situation, right? Like you don't become a teacher to make a lot of money, but how do you get good? How do you get good people to run an organization? If they're qualified and they're good people, you pay them to come to your organization as opposed to going somewhere else. You want quality teachers that actually love what they do, aren't stressed about the finances of it. You got to pay them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe we could take some of the stimulus money and actually put it into the education system and get
some teachers paid.
Get some teachers paid.
Yeah.
Because guys, I guarantee you, if you got a kid, like all of a sudden your 19 hours of Zoom meetings with your 14 kids is starting to wear yourself thin. You're like, no. Hopefully you show a little respect, and maybe you don't have to. Maybe you, the parent, shouldn't talk back to the teacher that month when your kid's just being a jerk in class.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll have to save that one for the next podcast. You're about to get me hot and bothered over parents that think they know better than the teachers. Anyways, I'll just leave it there.
Guys, thanks for listening. Leave your
stay safe,
comments and
stay
thumbs
healthy,
ups and likes and all the things, reviews. Appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode.